I want you to picture um, a teenager in a quiet New Zealand suburb. This is back in the 1970s.
Okay.
He's just standing in his backyard holding a sharp sewing needle, and he's meticulously poking these tiny individual holes into a strip of celluloid film.
Just by hand.
Completely by hand. And he isn't destroying the film. He's holding it up to the light, calculating exactly where to puncture it. Because, when it runs through a projector, the bright light shining through that tiny hole will look exactly like a muzzle flash.
Like a World War II rifle firing?
Exactly. He is literally physically inventing his own special effects out of absolutely nothing. And the wild part is, today, that exact same guy is an Oscar-winning director and a billionaire tech pioneer.
It really is a profound trajectory. I mean, we are so used to the standard Silicon Valley narrative.
Oh, yeah, the Ivy League dropout coding in a slick garage.
Right, exactly. But this story, it breaks every single one of those templates.
It really does. So welcome to today's deep dive. Our mission today, for you listening, is to trace this wildly unconventional evolution.
From poking holes in film to reshaping the global entertainment industry.
Yeah. We are going to explore exactly how Peter Jackson pulled this off, because this isn't just a biography. It's a masterclass for you on how obsessive passion and a total refusal to accept technological limitations.
And a wonderfully macabre sense of humor.
Yes. How all of that can completely redefine an industry. Okay, let's unpack this.
It's the perfect place to start, because to understand his eventual tech empire, you really have to understand his foundational philosophy.
Right.
Jackson's career is basically the ultimate case study in scaling up a fiercely independent do-it-yourself ethos.
Taking that backyard ingenuity and just supersizing it.
Exactly. He scaled it into a multi-billion-dollar global machine, but he never actually lost that obsessive tinkerer identity.
So to understand the billionaire who builds digital empires, we have to look closely at the kid who built cinematic worlds out of thin air.
The kid in Pukeru Bay.
Yeah, this coastal town. Growing up, he was completely captivated by Ray Harryhausen films and the original King Kong.
Which is pretty standard for future filmmakers, but Jackson took it further.
Much further. At just 9 years old, he isn't just watching these movies. He's trying to reverse engineer them.
He's making his own stop-motion models.
Right. Trying to literally remake King Kong scene by scene in his house.
And that drive to just reverse engineer reality, it only intensifies. You mentioned him poking pinholes in the film earlier.
Yeah, the muzzle flashes.
Right. That was for a short film he made as a teenager called The Dwarf Patrol.
Great title.
It is. But he had no budget, no special effects department, and obviously no access to industry tools.
So he just looked at the problem mechanically.
Exactly. How do you simulate a bright flash on a physical medium? You literally let the projector's bulb do the work by scratching away the emulsion on the film strip.
It's brilliant problem solving, but the sheer dedication is what really gets me. Like, he actually drops out of school at 16.
Wait, at 16?
Yeah, drops out and gets a job as a photo engraver at a local newspaper in Wellington.
That's a serious commitment.
And he stays at that day job for 7 years.
Wow.
7 years. And he continues living at home with his parents that entire time just so he can save every single penny.
To buy equipment.
Yeah, to buy his own professional-grade camera equipment.
Which pays off because he finally secures a 16mm camera.
Yeah.
And that specific piece of hardware becomes the engine for his first feature film.
Bad Taste.
Bad Taste.
Oh, man. Bad Taste is legendary in the indie world.
It really is.
For those who don't know, it's this wild, over-the-top splatter comedy. It's about aliens coming to Earth to harvest humans for, like, an intergalactic fast food chain.
As one does.
Right. But because he is still working his day job, he shoots this movie almost entirely on weekends.
Over the course of 4 years, right?
4 years of weekends. His friends are acting for free. He builds his own camera cranes.
He's practically a one-man studio.
He even plays 2 separate roles in the film. There's this incredible sequence where his 2 characters are physically fighting each other.
On the edge of a cliff, right?
Yeah. Yes. On the edge of a cliff. So you have a director out on a ledge, literally filming himself, fighting himself.
What's fascinating here is that this entire period was built on pure, unadulterated trial and error.
Because he had no training.
None. Jackson had absolutely zero formal training in filmmaking. No film school. No mentors.
He was just figuring it out as he went.
Teaching himself editing, visual effects, prosthetics, all on the fly. And because he never learned the traditional rules of how a Hollywood movie is supposed to be made.
He didn't know the limits.
Exactly. He never internalized those traditional boundaries. He simply didn't know what was supposed to be impossible.
It really makes me think of like a garage band musician.
Oh, that's a good comparison.
But it's not just a musician who is writing their own songs in the garage. It's someone who is in there actually soldering together the circuitry for their amplifiers.
Building the hardware.
Right. Hand carving the wood for their own guitars, all just to get the exact, highly specific sound they hear in their head.
That is a highly accurate way to look at it. He was actively building the tools to make the art, rather than just making art with the tools provided to him.
But building homemade camera rigs and shooting aliens in the woods on a Sunday, it has a natural ceiling.
It does.
Splatter comedies, no matter how inventive they are, they don't exactly get you massive studio funding or, like, critical prestige.
Not usually, no.
To truly scale up as a world builder, he had to prove he could handle genuine, nuanced human emotion.
Not just fake blood and latex masks.
Exactly. And that causal shift brings us to 1994 with the release of Heavenly Creatures.
Which is a massive pivot.
A completely different universe. He abandons the alien vomit for this beautifully shot, deeply tragic, critically lauded drama.
Based on a true story, too.
Yeah, a real-life 1950s murder case in New Zealand. It starred a then-unknown Kate Winslet.
And it fundamentally changed how the industry viewed him.
It earned him an Academy Award nomination for Best Original Screenplay.
And we have to give immense credit here to his partner and frequent collaborator, Fran Walsh.
Oh, absolutely.
It was Walsh who really saw the potential in this specific true crime story. She pushed for it to be told.
Her enthusiasm and her writing really drove the project.
It proved that their team could direct incredibly complex human stories.
But even with that newfound prestige, the tinkerer in him just couldn't resist manipulating the medium.
And to put the boundaries again.
Just a year later, in 1995, he and co-director Costa Botes pull off one of the great media hoaxes.
Forgotten Silver.
This is maybe my favorite thing he's ever done. It's a television mockumentary.
And people totally fell for it.
Completely. They invent this completely fictitious New Zealand film pioneer named Colin Mackenzie.
Right. Totally made up guy.
And they create a documentary claiming this guy secretly invented color film.
And the talkies?
Yes, decades before Hollywood did. They fabricate old film reels, age them to look authentic.
Yeah, they just broadcast it.
They broadcast the whole thing in a serious drama slot on national television with zero warning that it was fake.
Which is so bold.
People were absolutely outraged when they found out they had been duped.
But look at what that prank achieved mechanically.
Right.
It proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that Jackson could flawlessly manipulate reality. He made the unbelievable look entirely factual.
It was a flex.
A huge flex.
Yeah.
And that specific skill set, blending the impossible with the real, is exactly what caught the eye of Hollywood.
Which leads to his 1996 comedy horror film, The Frighteners.
Starring Michael J. Fox.
Okay, wait, I have to push back here for a second.
Sure.
He finally lands the big Hollywood backing. He gets a major star like Michael J. Fox.
A huge star at the time.
And the film itself is set in a North American town.
Right.
Wouldn't the absolute most logical, easiest path to success for a rising director be to pack up, move to Los Angeles, and plug into the studio system?
You would think so.
So why on earth did Jackson insist on shooting The Frighteners entirely in New Zealand?
It's a great question, and honestly, understanding his decision here unlocks his entire future empire. Moving to Los Angeles would have meant plugging himself into someone else's machine.
Ah.
He would have had to rent Hollywood special effects houses. He'd have to abide by their schedules, their rules, their unions.
He'd be an employee, basically.
Right. By digging his heels in and insisting the production stay in New Zealand, Jackson essentially forced the studio to fund the creation of his own infrastructure.
Wait, so by refusing to go to LA, he used their Hollywood budget to build his own personal factory.
Exactly. To handle the complex digital and physical effects required for The Frighteners, he and his collaborators rapidly expanded their own local effects company.
Weta Workshop.
Weta Workshop, and its digital counterpart, Weta Digital. He was employing vertical integration.
Controlling every step of the process.
He wanted total creative control. And to have that, you must own the means of production. By staying home, he built a facility that could eventually handle anything his imagination could conjure.
Which directly sets the stage for the most audacious pitch in cinema history.
The big one.
Because he now owns this massive, vertically integrated factory with Weta, he is uniquely positioned to walk into a studio and confidently say,
I want to adapt J.R. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings.
The scale of that ambition cannot be overstated.
It really can't. And initially, he developed the project with Miramax.
Oh, right.
However, the studio heads there started pressuring him heavily. They wanted him to condense this massive, sprawling, historically rich fantasy epic into just one single 2-hour film.
Imagine trying to cram all of Middle-earth into one movie.
It's impossible.
It would have been an absolute creative disaster.
Jackson knew it would fail. So in a massive gamble, he takes the project to New Line Cinema for a last-minute pitch.
And New Line didn't just save the project.
No, they doubled down.
They insisted on making it a proper trilogy. 3 massive films shot back-to-back concurrently.
Here's where it gets really interesting.
Tell me.
Think about the mechanics of that negotiation. It's like you walk into a bank and you ask the loan officer for a small personal loan to build a little wooden shed in your backyard.
Right.
And the bank manager looks at you and says, "No, absolutely not. I demand that you take hundreds of millions of dollars and build a 3-story mansion instead."
That is insane. It was completely unheard of in Hollywood to greenlight 3 blockbuster films at once for an unproven franchise.
Unheard of and incredibly risky. I mean, principal photography lasted for well over a year.
With multiple units shooting all across the rugged terrain of New Zealand.
And this is where that digital ecosystem he built truly flexed its muscles.
Right. What?
Because to create the massive, sweeping battles of Middle-earth, Weta Digital developed a revolutionary piece of software called Massive.
Because you can't just hire 50,000 extras for an orc army.
Exactly. The logistics alone would ruin you. So the Massive software utilized artificial intelligence to give thousands of individual digital characters their own autonomous brains.
Wait, their own brains?
Yeah. Instead of manually animating every single soldier frame by frame, they program a digital agents with rules for combat, vision, and movement.
That is so far ahead of its time.
And then they essentially press play and let them fight it out organically.
He literally scaled his childhood stop-motion models into autonomous digital armies.
And the payoff for this integration of tech and art was historic.
Beyond historic, The Return of the King alone won 11 Academy Awards.
Tying the all-time record.
And becoming the very first fantasy film to ever win Best Picture.
And when you look at his actual directing style on set during those films...
Oh, it is intensely perfectionist.
Very. He was famous for demanding take after take from his actors.
Always asking for one more for luck.
Right. He would shoot a scene from a staggering number of angles to get what the industry calls coverage.
And that specific directing style, the absolute insistence on relentless coverage and multiple takes, that is a direct descendant of his DIY roots.
How so?
Well, remember, he spent years manually splicing his own film strips by hand for bad taste.
Oh, true.
He knows the agonizing feeling of sitting in an editing bay at 3 a.m. and realizing you don't have the exact shot you need to make a scene work.
You can't just fix it in post if you don't have the footage.
Exactly. So by shooting from every conceivable angle on set, he ensures he has every possible puzzle piece available to him when it's time to assemble the final picture.
That makes perfect sense.
He also clearly had a blast making them, despite the immense pressure. He constantly sneaks into his own movies.
Oh, the cameos.
Yes. In The Fellowship of the Ring, he's the grumpy guy chomping on a carrot in the rain in the town of Bree.
Oh, yeah.
In The Two Towers, he's a Rohan defender, curling a spear off the wall at Helm's Deep.
Classic.
And my absolute favorite, in The Return of the King, he plays a pirate mercenary who accidentally gets shot in the chest by Legolas.
It's a great reminder that the kid making movies in his backyard with his buddies is still very much alive on that set.
Completely.
Yeah.
So he conquers the ultimate fantasy epic. He then follows it up by living out his childhood dream.
Remaking King Kong.
Yes, in 2005, utilizing Weta's motion capture technology.
But once you have built a machine capable of creating Middle-earth and a hyper-realistic giant ape, what do you point it at next?
Right. You've climbed the mountain.
For Jackson, the answer was unexpected. He turned his technological ecosystem toward reality.
Towards history.
Exactly.
This transition completely blew my mind. In 2018, he releases a documentary called They Shall Not Grow Old.
A masterpiece of restoration.
He takes century-old, grainy, silent, black and white archival footage from the trenches of World War I, and he unleashes the full power of Weta upon it.
The restoration process was staggering. I mean, they didn't just clean up the scratches. They computationally adjusted the frame rates. So the soldier stopped moving in that jerky, sped-up motion typical of old film.
It looks like modern video.
It does. They painstakingly colorized the uniforms and the mud to historically accurate shades, and they converted the entire thing into an immersive 3D experience.
And the audio. I couldn't believe this part.
Oh, the lip readers.
Yes. They actually brought in professional lip readers to study the silent mouths of the soldiers on film.
Just to see what they were saying in the background.
Exactly. Just so they could accurately script and dub in the exact words the men were shouting in the trenches 100 years ago.
The critical consensus was that the film created an eerie, hyper-real sense of life.
It really did.
It took figures that we are used to seeing as distant, unrelatable ghosts of the past and made them undeniably, viscerally human.
He then applies a similar technological leap to music history.
Ah, yes, the Beatles.
In 2021, he releases the massive documentary series, The Beatles Get Back.
Which was a massive undertaking.
Huge. He has handed 55 hours of unseen video footage and 140 hours of audio from the band's final days together.
But there was a major issue with the audio, wasn't there?
A huge issue. The problem was a lot of that audio was just a noisy, jumbled mess.
They were playing over each other.
Constantly. Instruments were bleeding into vocal mics, and it was considered largely unusable by standard metrics.
So what does his team do?
They literally invent groundbreaking demixing software to solve it.
This demixing technology is a true paradigm shift in audio engineering.
It's basically magic.
It feels like it.
Yeah.
Previously, if you had a mono track with a guitar and a voice mixed together, you couldn't separate them cleanly.
They're baked in.
Right. But Jackson's team utilized machine learning to solve this. They essentially trained an AI to recognize the specific acoustic waveform of John Lennon's voice and the specific waveform of Paul McCartney's bass.
It's literally like teaching a computer how to unbake a cake.
That is a brilliant way to conceptualize it.
You have a fully baked cake, which is the mono audio track, and this software somehow manages to perfectly extract the flour from the eggs without ruining either ingredient.
The AI isolates the individual instruments and vocals, allowing them to remix a messy 1969 recording with pristine modern clarity.
And that technology didn't just stay in his documentary.
No, it changed everything.
It completely revolutionized the music industry overnight. It allowed for the incredibly crisp 2022 reissue of the Beatles' album Revolver.
And even more astonishingly,
It led to the completion of Now and Then in 2023.
the last Beatles song.
Yes. The surviving Beatles used Jackson's demixing tech to cleanly extract John Lennon's vocal from a very muddy, low-quality demo cassette he recorded in his apartment in 1977.
Just a tape recorder sitting on a piano.
And they built a modern track around it. And it literally just won a Grammy.
Jackson even stepped in to direct the music video, seamlessly blending new footage with restored vintage clips.
But, stepping back, applying this level of computational power to historical artifacts raises a fascinating philosophical debate.
It really does.
Right. I have to ask you this because I keep thinking about it.
Sure.
When you take century-old silent war footage and you colorize it, adjust the speed, convert it to 3D, and add synthetic dialogue,
Right.
or when you rip apart the sonic fabric of a 1970s cassette tape to build a modern, high-fidelity pop song, are we preserving history? Or are we modernizing it so heavily that it stops being a historical document and becomes a totally new piece of art?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we really have to look closely at Jackson's underlying philosophy regarding archives.
Okay, what is it?
For him, a historical artifact locked in a vault or a grainy video that a modern teenager cannot connect with is essentially dead.
Interesting.
He fundamentally believes that knowledge and history are most valuable when they are understood and, crucially, when they are felt by a contemporary audience.
So it's about emotional resonance.
Exactly. He isn't trying to overwrite the archive. He is attempting to translate history into a visceral, modern cinematic language so that people today will actually engage with it emotionally.
Translating history. I really love that framing.
It fits perfectly.
So what does this all mean for the kid from Pukeroa Bay?
Cool.
Mastering this level of world building and technological translation eventually pushes him entirely beyond the bounds of traditional cinema.
Oh, far beyond.
The guy who was poking holes in film with a sewing needle officially became a billionaire in 2021.
Yes, and the mechanism of how he became a billionaire is telling.
How so?
He sold the technology division of Weta Digital to Unity Technologies for over $1.6 billion.
Which is wild. Unity, for those listening who might not know, is a massive 3D gaming engine company.
Right?
Why would a video game company want a movie director's special effects house?
Because the line between video games and cinema is disappearing
Blurring together.
completely. The tools Weta built to render the jungles of King Kong, or the subsurface scattering of Gollum's skin, those are exactly the tools game developers need to build immersive, real-time 3D environments.
So Unity bought Weta to integrate Hollywood-level visual fidelity into the interactive gaming space.
Exactly. It's the ultimate convergence.
But what's truly wild is what he does with that immense wealth.
Oh, his hobbies.
He has become a billionaire hobbyist on a scale that is hard to comprehend. His real estate and aviation portfolios alone are staggering.
Doesn't he own like a fleet of planes?
He owns over 40 airworthy World War I era planes.
That's incredible.
And he doesn't just display them in a hangar. He runs an entire aircraft restoration and manufacturing company called the Vintage Aviator just to keep them flying.
He's sustaining an entire micro-industry.
He also owns modern Gulfstream jets, and he actually deployed one of them to actively assist in the international search for the missing Malaysian Airlines flight MH370.
It's a very active, kinetic type of wealth.
Very much so.
He's also deeply involved in philanthropy. He donated $500,000 to embryonic stem cell research.
Wow.
He stepped in to buy an old church in Wellington and later the Bats Theater, specifically to save them from the wrecking ball and preserve them for the community.
And if saving old architecture and maintaining a private air force of biplanes wasn't enough,
There's more.
there is. He is also a major investor in Colossal Biosciences.
Wait, the genetic company?
Yes. That is the radical genetic engineering company that is actively attempting to bring extinct creatures, like the woolly mammoth, back to life.
That is the absolute ultimate evolution of a world builder.
Right. He has gone from animating a clay King Kong on a tabletop to funding the literal genetic de-extinction of a mammoth.
It is a conceptually perfect through line.
It really is.
Jackson's wealth is clearly not spent on passive luxury. It is actively deployed for preservation and creation.
Putting the money to work.
Whether it's keeping a 1915 biplane in the sky, protecting a local theater, extracting a ghost's voice from a cassette tape, or exploring radical bioscience, his obsession remains entirely consistent.
Which is.
He wants to make the impossible visible, tangible, and real.
It really is one of the most incredible creative journeys of our time. For you listening, we've traced a path from a teenager hand-cranking a 16mm camera on the weekends to film Bad Taste,
To an Academy Award-sweeping visionary.
to a billionaire tech innovator reshaping how we experience history and music. Peter Jackson's career proves that fully embracing your most obsessive curiosities, building your own tools when none exist, and absolutely refusing to take no for an answer when technology tells you something is impossible.
It can quite literally change the world.
It really can.
This raises an important question, though, a thought I'd like to leave you with.
Let's hear it.
If the technology built by this one filmmaker can now perfectly extract a voice from a degraded tape and seamlessly transform 100-year-old trench warfare into a hyper-real, immersive 3D experience, we are officially entering a new era.
Yeah.
As these tools become even more advanced, allowing us to perfectly digitally simulate history, music, and perhaps even resurrect biology. If technology allows us to perfectly Photoshop the past, we have to wonder if we're actually preserving history or just creating a highly convincing simulation of it.
That is a heavy thought.
Will we eventually lose the ability to tell the difference between what was originally real and what has been perfectly digitally remembered?
That is a deeply wild thought to end on. As the tools to rebuild our past get sharper, the line between reality and simulation gets beautifully, terrifyingly thin. Keep mulling that over and keep diving deep. We'll catch you next time.